All right, it's time to call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Brewer? Here. Trustee Grant? Here. Trustee Jones? Trustee Tate? Trustee Todd? Here. Trustee Zupan? Here.
I'd like to take a moment of silence for the students down in Florida and also for the police officer that was killed in downtown Chicago. Thank you so much. First order of business, our presenter is not here, so we're going to go to the second one, which would be the communication and telephone system. He was asked to come back out so he could, and also bring Brandon and Patrick. Come out, you guys can come right on up. And the board wanted to see some more comparisons. On my right is Brandon, and on my left is Patrick. So you guys are here. Well, Brandon already gave us his presentation, so we'd like to hear what you have to, Brandon. And which one are you representing?
I'm with First Communications. So we provide a hosted phone solution, which is what you're evaluating.
Did you have any pamphlets?
I do. I can certainly pass that.
Is that different than what we already have? If you just continue through your package, you'll see.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, I just wondered if what he had was the same as what's in our package.
It would be the same information.
Okay. I got it. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, apologize.
You want to hold the mic, you can.
Yeah, you know.
There you go.
I know you mentioned that, so I'll do that. It'll be a little bit more easier than me just leaning forward. I'll just start off real quickly with who I am, the company I represent, and the partnership that we have with Brandon and his team. The company I'm with is First Communications. We've been in business for a little over 25 years. We are a company that provides hosted phones, which is the solution that you're looking at or evaluating, as well as voice and data and so forth. With that being said, we really focus on providing communications. That's all we do. We don't do anything less. The biggest thing that I would say about our company is we're a company that is local. Our headquarters is in Akron, Ohio. Our main regional office is in Oak Brook Terrace. So a lot of our operations, our support staff, our service team, the individuals that actually take these phones, program these phones, test these phones, and our field technicians will actually come out on site and set up the phones. That's what we do. So there are a lot of options out there when it comes to hosted phones, but in my opinion, I've been doing this for a little over 20 years myself. When it comes to a hosted phone solution, everyone talks about the services being in the cloud, but I'm kind of old school. I'm kind of old-fashioned. In my opinion, I think people still want to have local support, local representation. If they need someone, they can get a hold of someone and not talk to somebody out of state or even out of the country for that matter. So that's kind of what we bring to the table. And on top of that, we actually have personal training as well. So these things might seem small or whatever, but not a lot of people provide that kind of A to Z type of whole, support when we work with our customers. So hopefully that's a quick little rundown about what we do. But if there's any questions, please.
Sure, go ahead.
One of the items that I was concerned about at the last meeting that we talked about was ongoing service. And specifically, my concern would be if we have some issues with a phone or phones, what your organization's service provider offers to us. Is it strictly phone support? You know, at what point is the help desk not able to help us? And then does that run into hourly rates for someone to come out on site? Is there so many hours included with the contract a year? How does that work? Because that really doesn't get talked about in your proposal.
Great question. So that's kind of one of the real beauties about hosted phones in general, but specifically to First Communications, we actually support you 100%. So what does that mean? We're not just the ones that provide the phones. We're actually the carrier. We're the provider. We're the ones that are providing the dial tone, the phone, not only the hardware, but also the support, the training. If there's a problem with the phone, we'll fix it. Usually 9 out of 10 times this stuff can be corrected or addressed remotely. That's one of the beauties of these phones, is because you do have access, we do have access to a portal to make any moves, adds, and changes to your phone system. But if it is a physical issue with the phone, we actually replace it. That is part of our agreement if you decided to go forward with us. So really, there's only one cost. There's no additional cost in terms of additional support or rolling out a truck for taking care of an issue, whatever that might be. That's all part of working with First Communications as far as our hosted phone solution is concerned. And Brandon, I don't know if you wanted to make a comment, but did that answer your question, or?
So if we were to use First Communications, our out-of-pocket monthly would not exceed the amount on this page, is what you're saying?
That is correct. The only thing that would change is if you decided to add another phone. Those are the obvious changes to the total price there. So what you see there is what the monthly would be, no changes with that. And again, that's part of the phone service, the support, the training, and whatnot.
A quick question. It was related to us. Brandon came out and actually went around and saw that we needed more phones than we had originally, I guess, talked about. Did you get that from him, the amount of phones that we need?
Yeah, and I believe that was counted as 65. Is that correct?
Okay, and also he went back, we were talking about being able to communicate from one building to the other. Would that be included in your?
Just to confirm, when you mean communicated, are you talking about 3-digit or 4-digit dialing?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct. So again, you don't need to dial the full phone number. You just dial, for example, the 4 digits, 1, 2, 3, 4, and if that was whomever's extension, you're speaking to that individual. Again, one of the nice things about these phones too, which I'm sure was already discussed, the advantage of this is if there is an issue, or let's say someone needed to work out of their home or whatever, the beauty of this is you can literally take the phone and take it with you, and as long as you have an internet connection, you're going to have dial tone. So,
you mean take that phone, or?
Correct, this phone.
Okay, because he was talking as far as your cell phone.
Oh, cell phone. So you need, the mobility, is that correct? Yes, you will have, you do have mobility capability as well. Okay. So your basically your smartphone. Okay. Is basically your work phone.
Take that phone out here.
Yeah, it might be a little bit big.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Anyone else have any other questions? Okay.
I did have another question for Brandon. So thank you for adding the additional paperwork from the other two providers. I was trying to flip back on Nextiva to your one pager that showed the bottom line costs, and I couldn't do that for the Nextiva quote. And it looks like probably the upfront installation equipment costs are not necessarily on this page. Would you agree?
First Communications allows us to add in the cabling costs into their quote as a pass-through cost to STC. Nextiva does not, so you'll probably see a difference of roughly $800. Is that accurate?
Don't know, right? It's,
So that would
because
be-
I don't see anything that adds up to the $1292 that's quoted on here is the upfront installation cost. Right here, I just really see the monthly plus some shipping. The other question I had really kind of applies across the board. From what I could tell based off of the Nextiva and the First Communications information, it appears that the Comcast internet for the rec center and the fax line would be something that are both provided through STC only and not through the other two providers. Is that true?
Comcast is actually providing them directly themselves.
Okay. So we really should pull them out of all three quotes and have a separate column for that then. Is that true? Fair assessment?
Depends how you want to look at it. I want to look at the total overall spend to have phone service at every location compared to what it is now, compared to what you'd need to do for you to have it in the future.
Okay. But to be clear, the spend with the three providers, it's really 4 providers to get us a holistic picture of the communication needs, and one of those 4 providers is Comcast because of the internet and fax line need.
That's correct.
Okay.
So this does not count any cell phones. This is strictly desk phones themselves. That would be a different comparison. Those wouldn't be on the same plan. It's most likely you're probably using AT&T or Verizon. Is that accurate? So we're comparing right now the desk phone capabilities from Call One, who's the current provider. If we wanted to take a look, and I certainly can do that for you, provide a cost comparison for cell phone usage, AT&T, Verizon, so forth, and help the village again cut down costs, we can look at that in the future, but this would only pertain to the desk phones.
Just for a little bit of a clarification as well, so I have a desk phone as well. Mine is a little bit of a different one than the one that you see here. But just to clarify a little bit on your cell phone, or your question about your cell phones, are you kind of referring to the ability to, if you're not at your desk, to make sure that you're still being reached? I just wanted to clarify that a little bit, because if that is the case, for example, if you called my office line, obviously I might not be at my desk, but I have full capability to set up and configure how I want my phone to be set up. And what I mean by that is, right now I have my phone ring one time. If I'm at my desk, then obviously I pick it up. But once it rings one time, it still rings, or it continues to ring after the first ringtone, but it also starts ringing my other device, my mobile. So if I am walking around, if I am in another building, if I am remote from being at my desk phone, the outside world can still get a hold of me. Now, keep this in mind as well, that if you do not want your cell phone to be represented as far as a caller ID, you don't have to. So if someone calls my direct line, it's hitting my mobile as well, but when I answer it, it's pushing either the main number or my DID or my direct inward dial number, basically your phone number, and not your mobile. So that's a personal choice. I don't know if you personally show your personal cell phone or if you want more of your work phone number, but just wanted to clarify that if that's a little bit about what you were thinking.
My situation is that I have a landline in my desk.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a cell phone. I never use a landline in the desk, but I have a wholesale cell phone. So instead of using a landline, just use all my calls on the cell phone.
Mm-hmm. And you can really do that as well. Again, I'm sorry, go ahead. So in a way, it's very similar. It might still, if I'm going to call you at your office, it might hit your work or your desk phone first, but after that, they can easily just call your mobile. And again, I don't know if, I mean, obviously if it's a personal call, then they obviously know your mobile number. But if it's work related, and again, you really don't want your personal mobile number to be out there. Oh, okay. So again, it's kind of, you can, or yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's just for inbound phone calls. It's not where you can actually make outgoing calls from your cell phone using that phone.
You have the capability, yes. It's called a mobile app. It's something that's, not mentioned here. It can certainly be added on where, again, your mobile phone or your cell phone actually becomes your desk phone. So if I made a call on my mobile, I can actually have a choice of either making it a personal call, meaning my typical, like what all of our cell phones are today, or I can actually call out, but it's calling out using my work number. And that's a true mobility. We do have that. Usually a lot of people that are remote, not really at their desk at all, that's really where that kind of comes into play. But it can certainly be added on at any time.
So kind of like WhatsApp, where when you're doing your setup, you give the phone number of what you're using, and you can text through it, you can make it outbound and incoming calls.
Inbound, outbound calls, yes. Texting is texting. But as far as your call traffic, whether it's inbound or outbound, yes. Also, too, we do have the capability where if you did want to try it out, because I do have a lot of my customers that like the idea, but don't really use it. And I can kind of relate because I have the mobile app, but I don't use it. It really is kind of a preference. So where I was getting at with that is we actually can provide the mobility app for 5 users for free for 3 months. So it could be really kind of a good test bed, so to speak, to try it out and see if you really, really would use it. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm kind of about, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I really don't want anyone really to spend money if they're really not going to use in this case, the technology. But I would suggest trying the trial period to see if that would really make sense for you. And if so, then great, then we can address it, whenever you want. But try it out for 3 months and see if those 5 individuals would really use it, or maybe there's certain departments that might be, they would probably look at it differently than others. It's actually through First Communications. It's our own app. It's just a FirstCom MyPBX Go mobility app. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that would be an additional cost.
It would be, yes. So that's why I suggest do the trial period.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you so very
Sure.
much.
Hopefully I
We're
didn't
getting in
bore
touch
you to
with you
death.
pretty soon. And Brandon, thank you. Thank you. Our next presenter will be Mr. Michael Borkowski. you doing, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, trustees, and everybody else. How would you like me to start?
Whichever way you feel comfortable. This is just to give a outline. This is about using, I guess, some land in the village and turning it into a solar facility. Am I correct?
Yes, that's right. It's called a community solar garden.
Okay. And I just wanted to, and I'm sure the board wants to know, are you asking to acquire the land? Are you asking to just lease it and have this business in the village?
Yes, so the land is owned by Miss Vicki White. She will continue to be the owner of it. We have just leased it from her.
Okay.
Not much different than a ordinary farming lease.
Okay.
Except instead of growing corn, we will have some solar panels on it. And that energy will be sold at a discount to the energy that's being sold by ComEd.
Okay.
So what happened, as a little bit of background, is in December 2016, the state of Illinois and the Illinois Power Authority passed some legislation to promote solar. What was happening was the nuclear power plant was operating at a loss, and they needed to get subsidies for that. And in order to allow them to have subsidies for the nuclear power plant, they said that they must require the utilities to have a certain amount of solar within the state of Illinois. And that language provided for certain incentives for solar to be developed. And what those incentives do is they're small payments per kilowatt that is produced by these panels. And as a result, we are able to sell the energy from those solar gardens back to the community at a discount. And what that does from a legislative standpoint is make the communities want to embrace solar that much more. So we're working with a number of communities around the state where we are providing the cities discounted power for, cities outside of ComEd territory. They have to actually pay for their utilities. So some of it is just, city costs. I know that's not the situation here, but things like the schools, the water treatment facilities, and other types of things, we're entering into agreements with those types of organizations where we can provide them discounted power from these gardens. We can only do that for approximately 40% of the power. Only one customer can make up 40% of the power. The other 60% typically gets sold back to the community, the residents of the community, where they can get discounted, clean, renewable energy. The solar panels are approximately 7 feet off the ground at their highest point. They have no chemicals or any toxic materials whatsoever. They don't make any noise. There's nobody on site. They get visited maybe twice a year just to kind of check it over. Outside of that, they kind of just sit there and do their thing when the sun is shining. So, like I said, they don't, the other thing is we they don't change the runoff at all, because the way they go into the ground, it's just like a fence pole, except with a fence they actually have cement at the bottom. Here there is no cement at the bottom. It's just a pole that gets smacked into the ground, and solar panels are fastened to the top of that. So, and then underneath it, so it doesn't change the water runoff. You don't change the topography. There's no flattening of everything. You just kind of put it in the ground the way it is. And then you plant a cover grass. We typically try to plant pollinating grasses so that it supports a good ecology for surrounding farms. That's not the case here, but that's typically what we're doing. We would, again, plant a good weed control gas. Many of the residents, if it is near residents, when we try and find a facility, we always try and find something that is beneficial to the residents. And so in this situation, we see this as something that could be very beneficial for the residents, in that this particular lot, over the next 25 to 35 years, without this solar facility on it, would likely have some kind of warehousing type item, given its location and proximity to the highway. And what this will allow is for that type of industrial, large building wouldn't be there. It would have a solar farm on it that is non-invasive, yet still provides tax revenue, so that there is that economic tax revenue benefit to it. And plus, with the buffers that we have of 100 foot, that will provide almost the residents with what is otherwise a bigger backyard compared to, you know, the farm that they have. We do have screening that goes along the fence on the outside of it, inside of our plans already. And the way this particular field works is that in the neighbor's backyard, it kind of goes up, then it comes down a little bit, so it really wouldn't even be viewable to them. And that is kind of a brief overview of the project. We did leave the Steger kind of street front there so that it is open for some type of development in the future that would be beneficial to the community, whether it be some kind of restaurant or other type thing that would make sense in that corner. And we did that quite purposely so that it would not potentially limit the use of that land in the future. And that is, I guess, kind of an overview of the project.
Okay. Would you have to build a substation there?
No.
So how would you transfer the electricity?
It goes right into the existing wires that are on the road. Substations are when you have big transmission lines. Those big transmission lines step down into a substation, and that substation goes out into the wires that go throughout the neighborhood. This is not a large facility. It is a small facility, and the electric just goes right into the existing electric wires that are along Steger. Steger, sorry.
Okay. Do you know the capacity of those lines? How many gigawatts or megawatts that they transfer?
They're upwards of 20 megawatts. We're talking about 2 megawatts here.
Okay, so what I'm asking is, if anyone gets back there or gets in that field, how is that protected to go to the transfer line? How is there a field fence or something that's there?
There is a 6-foot fence that goes around it, but you got to understand the way these panels work is they're DC power, so it is no different than, say, like plugging in a microwave or a toaster oven or anything like that. The electrical wire, it's not a huge high voltage item.
Okay. And also, these panels, I'm trying to understand, you're saying that it's not going to change anything. Are these panels, are they connected, or there's a space in between each panel?
So there are rows of panels,
Right.
and there is approximately 13 feet in between the rows.
And then now you were saying that you would, the panels, I'm sorry, the electricity that it makes each month, is credited, the village gets so much credit, or homeowners, or who gets, because you were talking about that it gets credited back to. How do you do that? How does that, I mean?
It's a great question. So the solar facility has a meter on it, just like the meter that we have on our houses.
Okay.
And what happens is on the meter on your house, it spins to the left and generates a bill. The meter on the solar facility spins to the right and generates a credit, a big fat credit.
Okay.
And then what people do is, in essence, subscribe to the solar garden for a percentage of those credits. So for instance, you could say, hey, I want to buy $100 worth of credits. So, and you would pay $80, $90 for those credits. And every month on your regular bill, you'd have your normal bill that totals up to say $100. You would have a new line item in your bill that says net meter credit, and it would show negative $100. So your utility bill would now be zero, and you would pay the community solar garden $80 or $90, whatever the number is. So your electricity bill, in essence, decreased by $20 in that instance.
But you still have to pay a monthly fee, correct?
You would still pay your normal monthly electric. You're still paying a monthly bill, yes.
But you said subscribe. When you mean by subscribe, do you have to pay a fee each month to?
Just for whatever electric you get, for whatever credits you get, you pay for those.
Okay.
No credits, you don't pay for anything. And there's no upfront subscription costs, there's no commitment, there's no nothing. It's just pure, you're just buying credits at a discount.
But you still have to pay a subscription fee. Once you subscribe to this, is there like a period or a year that you have to be
No.
So you can do it anytime and quit anytime?
Yes. Most people like to try and secure longer-term rates because most people don't want to give it up.
And now the average farm that you, because I'm looking at, is it feasible? Because, you know, the town is, the average farm, does it produce a few gigawatts or megawatts?
It's just megawatts, yeah.
Okay. So they don't produce not even 1 gigawatt?
Not even close, no. They're not, it's 10, 12 acres, of which 30%, you know, is open. So they're not big.
I'm just wondering, I mean, because if you get a flood of people, say for instance you get 500 people that want to subscribe to this, do you have enough to pass, will it diminish each person? In other words, if you got 500 people trying to get to credits versus 10 people trying to get to credits, will it decrease the amount of savings that person can get?
No, there'll be a number. The law that was implemented in 2016, that was signed into law, will be implemented later this summer because there's all sorts of figure out exactly how to do it that's happening. And so that's why we're going through all the permitting process and all that right now, so that when the final implementation is done, it'll be done. There'll be a number of solar facilities, these community solar gardens, all around from which people will be able to buy the power. So I personally own some land in Fort Heights that we're looking to build one on. And there's some others where, you know, we're trying to find land that's kind of hidden in the back where we can put these out there. So we're also working with groups like the Chicago Housing Authority to be able to, you know, get the power back into the hands of the members of the community that need it most.
Okay, well, my last question would be probably the one that I think is kind of most important. It's a two-part question. First part, how many years did you lease this land, first of all? And second of all, if for some reason someone comes and wants to put a big box or a facility there, what is your, in other words, are you willing to move this or abolish the solar if we're gonna, or they have to come and lease it through you? In other words, they have to sublease it through you, and you remove the panels, but then you have the lease, so they have to sublease it from you, correct?
That's right. So this is a 25-year lease, and we left enough space along the main road for there to be a fairly significant commercial operation that's, along the primary Steger Road there. But I would think it's one of the benefits of the neighbors that live right there, that they know that there's only going to be this passive community solar garden versus some big block store in their backyard.
All right, that's all the questions I have.
So you are responsible for removing the panels, at the end of the lease?
Yes, we do, and we put financial surety up to ensure that there's money there at the end.
And does that come with some kind of like written agreement or?
It is a written agreement, it's a part of our lease. In addition to that, the salvage value of the facility itself tends to be more than what the removal cost is, like people would pay to come in to remove it. But in addition to that, we do put a bond down to ensure the removal of the facility in the unlikely event that anything ever happened.
I just want to follow up on your question because I felt like you didn't fully answer it.
Okay.
Does your lease include the corner of Steger Road and 394 where that space is left for development, or is that excluded from your lease with the owner?
It will be excluded once we have approval for this location of the facility.
All right, next question. I'm looking at your site layout page.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I do see green around the perimeter of the panel farm.
Yes.
Is that green the intent to surround the entirety of the farm with a 6-foot fence,
Yes.
including the frontage to 394?
Yes.
What's that fencing going to be made of?
Just a regular 6-foot fence.
But that could be PVC, it could be
No, it's
wood, it could be,
yeah. We put it in here
Sorry,
as
I'm not sure
just
about
a regular 6-foot chain link fence.
chain link.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. I see that you have indicated on the site layout as well the need for a road to give access to the solar farm. So is it correct to say that you're responsible for building that road and the infrastructure that goes with it?
Yes, ma'am. And that'll be more of a cart path than a road.
So you're
But
not
we will-
intending to pave it? Cart path to me means kind of like blacktop red dog, not asphalt.
Yeah, we don't typically asphalt something. We would have the ability for the water to penetrate that.
So instead, we're just talking about a dirt path that could get ruts in it over time, depending on what equipment you're taking in and out of there.
No, well, it is, I think when you look at the road, it's a 12-inch bed with gravel cut-out road so that it provides adequate long-term coverage to ensure that, if there's any safety equipment that needs to get there, there's, adequate roads to get there.
So what kind of weight are we talking about to take in these solar panels? I'm assuming that you're going to take them through this path to install them in this property.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you're talking about some amount of weight going on to that gravel for a good number of solar panels. And is that the only place that you're going to have that access come through? Or are you intending to in some way, shape, or form just kind of like hop off on 394 there and do something just because it's shorter access?
We absolutely would not come off of 394.
Okay.
And that path right there is the long-term path to get to what's called a little transformer. It's just what prepares the electric to get put onto the distribution grid. That's not intended to be a construction path. Construction for these facilities only take 2 to 3 months. During those months, you drop off the panels. You have a little forklift that'll drive around and just drop them off at the different spots.
So you've said each panel is 7 feet tall. How long are they?
No, the panels will only be 7 feet off the ground, but the panels tend to be about 3 foot by 6 foot.
So when I'm looking at your diagram here, your site layout then, and I'm seeing a long row of blue, generally speaking, how many panels would be in one row of blue? I don't know if there's a scale that goes with this that says, you know, these shorter ones are going to be 5 per row versus the longer ones are going to be 10 per row.
I'm just doing the math quick in my head. There's probably about 27 panels per string.
So we're talking about how many in total then?
There'll be close to 7,000.
I noticed that in your proposal that you have a list of residents that live 250 feet from the solar panels you're proposing. And I was wondering if you actually go out and talk to the residents about this proposal?
Not yet. Our understanding was that this was a meeting to introduce the project. We had put this package together based on other projects that have already been approved by Cook County. So we used the Cook County permit package to put this together to present to you, at which point we would send out the notices. We've been working with some of the fine folks here in the administration on just navigating to ensure that we're following your permit process. But the intent is to send the letter that is outlined in here to each of those people highlighting the facility.
Okay, and my second question is that you said that the residents, and I'm noticing on here that the people in Lincoln, the residents of Lincoln Meadows are the ones that you really need to talk to.
Absolutely.
That's something they really want to do. But I noticed that in the, you said that you could get credits. They could buy credits from the facility, okay? And there's I guess a meter or something that tells you how many credits.
That's right.
Okay. Now, the people who live in the residential Lincoln Meadows,
Yes, ma'am.
since they're right there, they're the solar panel.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have to buy that many credits, because you're right there with them. So is it cheaper for them? Because they're right there and there?
We would love to work with them to ensure that they get the right number of credits that they want at a price that works for them.
Because they're not obligated to buy in.
I understand they're not
Yeah.
obligated, but they need to know.
They have to use the process. Are you open to negotiating the type of fence? Because if that was my backyard, a chain link fence would not be my preferred. That's not blocking the view of solar panels if that was my backyard.
100%. And we also in here have a screening plan that puts arborvitaes actually all along the front of them, 3 foot on center. So I don't know that they'd ever even see the fence because there would be a row of trees that go all along there. That wasn't necessarily something that was required, but we thought it was the best thing to do. And I think that is this document right here where it lays out the landscape plan. And in that landscape plan, we talk about having trees that will grow up to 15 feet, 3 to 4 feet wide, spaced 3 feet from center.
And that's around the entire perimeter of it?
That is all, we had proposed it all on the people's backyards. Yes, ma'am.
I know you mentioned earlier the tax benefit to the village for this. Can you go into details as to where the village would benefit from this?
Absolutely. So the equipment is subject to personal property taxes. So there would be taxes that would collect, and I'm not intimately familiar with how that works within unincorporated and incorporated as to how much of that funds back to here. But there are taxes being collected on it. It provides zero burden. So there's no incremental people going to your school, there's no security, there's no financial obligation or burden whatsoever to the community. The other benefit would be that this village is able to purchase these credits to offset and reduce their power costs as it relates to water treatment or its schools or other items like that, so that you would see a direct reduction in those operating costs.
Are they, the credits that you're talking about, you keep saying the schools and the village, is it because of who they are that the credits are redeemed at a higher rate than the residential credits?
The actual residential credits are higher than the city credits.
Okay. On average, I'm sure you've done this before, on average, what are we talking about savings per month, on average?
It depends on how much you want to buy. I think a real way to look at it is you could safely say that you could cut 10% off of all your electricity bills across your entire purview of operating expenses.
And that's if you buy, how much?
It wouldn't work that way. You would just do it such that your operating costs were reduced by 10. You'd buy enough credits such that your operating costs were reduced by 10%.
Okay, now is this, whoever sets this rate, is this set, does it fluctuate like the stock market?
So we can do that. It tends to be, if you want it to fluctuate.
No, I don't. I'm just asking, does it?
Oh, it can be either way, and that's some of the discussions later on. Some people want it so that it fluctuates and you give them a little bit of a less of a discount because the risk is flipped upside down. People who think that energy are going to go up, they may want a fixed price over a period of time and take the risk that the power goes down, but benefit if the power goes up.
So it's basically like what you have now. There's a lot of places that out here you can buy at a certain rate right now to have it distributed to your house at a certain rate. This will basically be almost the same thing.
It is the same. It is. Okay. That's exactly how it works.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many solar farms are you operating right now in production?
So we have like a lot. We have 2,900 megawatts across the country. So probably 100 plus farms.
Wait, did you say 2,000?
2,900 megawatts, which is
2 gigawatts.
2.9 gigawatts. Yes. So we're.
A gigawatt is enough power to generate for 1,000 homes.
a megawatt is enough for 1,000. It's, yeah, so it's a huge amount of power that we have. And so you don't see much solar in Illinois right now because, like I said, the law hasn't come full into implementation. And it will go, there's only a certain amount of solar that will be built. So those people, those credits are going to become very valuable over time because people are going to want their discounted energy. So the people who get it first are the ones that will benefit because there's a limit. The Illinois Power Authority put a limit on how much solar that they're going to provide these subsidies for.
And how do people find out about subscribing and purchasing credits?
So one is through meetings like this, because what we like to have is we like to have what we call an anchor tenant, where we work with a municipality of sorts that have good credit that can take 40% of the power from the facility. This way we can offer the other 60% to residential that may not have as good a credit, but we can offset it because we have the good credit anchor tenant in essence. So you're gonna say I didn't answer your question? Okay.
Do you have an anchor tenant in mind for this particular space?
There are plenty of them. What we would say is Sauk Village would get first dibs.
So out of these 100 farms, we don't have any near here.
There's really no solar in Illinois right now, just because it hasn't been enabled yet. You'll see all the construction starting, late fall, early winter, next spring is when everything will start coming online.
So your whole project is based on the municipality getting 40% of credits and 60% you get from residents or whatever.
Typically goes back to
And
residents.
the bottom line is, everybody's talking about no cost. What is the bottom line? What is the cost to the village? I mean, it has to be something.
There's
We paying for a fence, we paying for landscape.
nothing.
We're paying the 40%.
Well, that's
We're
what we're
buying,
saying.
Well, you're buying discounted power. You're just buying the power at a discount. Remember, it's a Illinois Power Authority subsidized program. And that's why folks like the Cook County Housing Authority is trying to get as much as they can on their buildings. That's where I spent the day today. We were visiting all the different housing authority buildings because they want to get as much of the solar as they can on their buildings so that they can provide discounted power to their buildings. We do not have any in Indiana.
where's the closest one then?
Minnesota has a lot of community solar in it.
Any more questions? Could you stick around for a little brief moment after the meeting? Well, when we get to questions and answers, there's some people that here want to.
I would welcome the opportunity to, absolutely. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Okay.
The next item, you got a compliance in your packet. Just want you to read through it, the IEPA stormwater compliance. We're going to be a short presentation next week, right before the board meeting from Mr. Zarnick. I just want you to get and kind of go over it, because it's something we do every year, so it's just something I just need you to read. To look at it, refresh yourself. So is this particular one that everyone gets this? Okay, just take a look at it, look at some of the things. It hasn't changed, but it's something that we try to comply with every year, so it'll be brought forth in a short presentation next week before the board meeting. Okay, moving forward.
Sorry, so does this mean we'll have a special meeting next week?
No, it's gonna be yes, about 6:45, 6:50. Jim Zarnick is just gonna give us a presentation.
And then are you expecting for us to take action on this?
Well, this is something that we don't need to take action. We just have to have, it's like a town meeting. Just have to have that for informational purposes. So we have to do our due diligence on that. Okay, the next one is from Trustee Todd. She's going to explain the recommendations and give the recommendations from the Ordinance Review Committee on occupancy fees, removal from roll of dumpsters. I'll let her explain that to you. And then the ordinance for the fee schedule amending Section 8-21.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the occupancy fees, it's being requested from Sherry to raise them from $50 to $75. And then when it comes to the rental units, from $25 to $30. Now, we've reviewed it and we are in agreement that it should be raised because it's been, I think she told me it's been a really long time for those fees.
Okay.
The next one is the roll-offs. Now, it's strictly for the dumpsters that it's open to the residents to pick whatever disposal company that they would want. The only thing is, in the one, we need to change the sentence in there where it says it's limited to,
Okay. That's,
let's see, no more than one scavenger license. That needs to be changed. I think she wanted it removed, but I think per our recommendation, we want to have something in there that it would be unlimited
Yeah.
as far as roll-offs only, or the dumpsters for the residents.
okay. That's Section 8-662.
Correct. And we think that it should be opened up because there are scavenger services out there that are cheaper for the dumpsters than, say, Republic or, and I think it'd be Home and Gas.
Sorry. Should we, and maybe this isn't the right place for it, I don't know, but should we talk about potentially limiting the period of time that the dumpster can be on site?
I think that's already in our bylaw, in our ordinances, that they can only be out there a certain period of time. I'll check with that, but I think.
Right, I'll check with Sherry.
I think it's already there.
Here she was just one, to do the removal of the number that's on there. And then the third thing is the amending the fee schedule. The committee has reviewed it and we are in agreement with it as far as the fees.
Okay, that's this one.
Right.
Okay. And you read, I see you redid them, okay. And everyone have a chance to look at it, all three of these, and we're going to put them up for a vote come next week. It'll be on the agenda for all three items. And the amendment should state for item number 2 that there's no limit. Any questions? Okay, that'll be on the agenda for next week. Okay, and lastly, Economic Development Director, Mr. Wizardwater, is going to RFP for the village-owned land.
So everyone should have gotten a copy in their packets of the request for proposals for the sale of the village-owned land, which is in the Surreybrook Plaza, TIF number 4. This property was acquired by the village through a no-cash bid about 2.5 years ago. By no cash bid, that means that the village didn't pay any money to acquire it, except for legal fees. I believe the reason why was because the situation was that there was like $30,000, $40,000 in back taxes that were due on that building, so it wasn't moving too quick. So the idea here is that we put together the request for proposals for this, and let me kind of just touch on this. Anytime a village wants to sell property, it has to do a few things. First of all, it has to have the property appraised. The appraisal on this is going to be about $550 to do the appraisal. It is a TIF eligible expense, by the way. That process will begin if this is, you know, the board wants to move forward with this. The value of the property, we don't know. It's going to be determined by the appraisal. They have to comply with the 80% rule, so if they want to buy the property, they have to purchase it for a minimum of 80% of the appraised value. We've had several people that are interested in buying the property, but, you know, we had a discussion, okay, do we want to just sell the property and let it sit the way it is? Or would we rather have the property sold and then the person that's buying it redevelop the property? In other words, bring it up to code, clean it up, make it look a little bit more presentable than what it currently is. If you're not familiar with where this is the old laundromat / dry cleaner, which is right on Sauk Trail. 1717 Sauk Trail is the address. It's approximately a little under, well, it's under an acre for sure, the site. It's approximately about 3,000-ish square feet. All of the information will be contained in the appraisal, which is attachment number 1, which we don't have yet. I wanted to make sure that the board was okay before we went and moved forward with this in terms of getting the property sold. So basically the property is going to be sold as is, where is, so anything that's there is the owner's responsibility. We did gain access to the property. We did take a look inside. Oddly, the property is in fairly decent shape structurally. It's a brick building. It is a Flexicore ceiling, which is pretty solid. So it didn't appear to have any leaks, and there was quite a bit of moisture at the time we went over there and took a look at it. So a lot of good things with that. So if the village gets X amount of dollars for it, that's just more money that the village has. Since this is village-owned property, this money does not necessarily have to remain in the TIF district. It could be used for whatever purposes the village wants to use the money for. You know, the idea is basically that, you know, and the mayor said this to me several times, you know, the village isn't in the real estate business. We're not. But in situations like this where we have property, the best thing to do is get rid of it, because the village doesn't have a use for it, you know, and it just makes sense for the village to get rid of it. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on the RFP itself.
For anybody that's interested in buying the land, what do they plan on putting there?
That's a good question. Part of the request for proposals, obviously, they would present to the board. You know, this is their idea or concept. The board would have to approve what it is in their redevelopment plan. They may want to redevelop it and lease the property out. You know, that might be what someone might be looking for. Others might say, well, we want to put a laundromat in there. It all depends. But I can tell you that I've had 4 different people that are very interested. One wanted to buy it, you know, sight unseen, but I'm like, well, we can't just do that. There's a procedure we have to follow in order to do that. So, don't know.
Any other questions? You're asking to have this put on the agenda?
I am asking that the board put this on the agenda.
For RFP?
For the request for proposals. However, we will hold the RFP until the appraisal is in. So once the appraisal does come in, that'll be attached to the RFP, and part of this is that it can't be under 80% of the sales price. Additionally, there is a legal notice that has to be out because it is in a TIF district, and the property, since the village is selling property under an RFP, alternative proposals have to be offered by law. So I did check with council on that, and that's what they advised.
Okay. So this will be on the agenda next week for going forth with an RFP to present this and to go forth with the land. Okay.
Which means we would be approving the appraisal.
Essentially, yeah. Well, that,
Which is a TIF eligible expense.
it is a TIF eligible expense because it is in a TIF area. Does anyone have any objection to moving forward with the appraisal? Okay.
Can you give us a copy of the definition for the current zone, the C2?
Yeah, I mean, basically you have a C1, C2, C3 zone.
I'm sorry,
Oh, okay.
you're right.
Not a problem, not a problem. I'll send you a copy of the code.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, could you leave that mic up front there? I'll entertain questions from the audience. Each speaker may comment on any matter pertaining to the business of Sauk Village. Each speaker is allowed one opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes and may not engage in debate. If you just give us your name.
Kathy Betcher. First, I'm going to ask a couple of questions about
Sure.
how sturdy are the panels? Are they easily broken? And if they do get broken, how quickly will they be replaced?
Could you get a mic to you?
Second,
Mic to
if a child should get into that area, how dangerous is it for a child to be near there?
These are great questions. Can I answer them as they come up?
Oh.
No, just,
Oh, okay.
if you can, if it gets too long,
I'm used
then
to
you're right.
I'm used to a
If it
certain
gets too long,
procedure.
then okay.
And third, can we have more than one farm in this area? Or are we limited to just this one?
Okay.
And then that's for him, then I have some other stuff. So how do
You're
you
gonna
want
really use your 3 minutes, aren't you?
So do you want me to continue or do you want me to let him?
Okay.
I can come
As
back.
long as what you're asking me is not gonna take a long time. Okay, well then let him answer because I wanted him to, yeah.
Yes.
Let him answer the question for the solar farm. You're asking, first of all, how many farms? In other words, can you
we
put
have
another one
more
in?
than one? if-
Okay,
if
that's
we
very
decide-
easy. I can tell you that it's dependent on land sale.
Well, okay,
There will be more than one in the community.
okay. Can it be put into an area that is wetlands? It's not a structure. I know we can't build on wetlands.
Oh, you asking him, can you?
Can it be put on wetlands?
So there is a approval process for it to be put in wetland. It potentially could be. We tend to stay away from them. There can be more than one in this community. If a child, the facility will be secure, but if a child were to get in there, it is not very dangerous. In some of our farms, we actually have goats in the area, and they manage the grass for us. Every once in a while, they will short out a wire. The goat is perfectly fine, but we see that one of our panels is out because everything is able to be remonitored remotely as far as how much energy each panel is kicking off. Which goes to your first question, which is if they are very sturdy. It would take a lot for somebody to get rid of, to dismantle it or take it apart or anything like that. And if something did go wrong with it, we're immediately known of that, and we have somebody that is contracted locally that would go immediately out and replace that or whatever.
Okay, can I ask anyone that has questions for Michael for the solar panel? Can you come up with those first so we can, and then after that, we'll go, because we'll be here all day going back and forth. So does anyone else have, I think this young lady has some questions too. So if you have some questions for,
So you said that.
you want to speak up?
My name is Patricia Barker. So you said that it's a benefit in saving. How soon is the saving as far as transitioning from ComEd to solar panels?
Sure. So as soon as the facility is built, you would be getting those benefits on your next bill.
Okay, so what happened after 25 years?
That's a good question. But the panels actually have a life of 40 plus years. Our lease is for 25 years, and it has 5-year extensions on it. So we could potentially keep it there for a longer period of time.
So what happened after 30? Do we go back to the ComEd? at a
Yes, you
higher
would,
rate?
you would have to go back to ComEd at some point in time.
So it'll be a higher rate?
You don't know.
Assumably, yeah, at that later, much later date, yeah.
So I just have an example. My light bill is extra 200 plus.
Yeah,
So if I buy so much, say I buy 100 shares, would that cover that, or would I have to pay 2 bills?
no, your bill would get reduced by, $20 to $40 a month.
Just $20 to $40 a month?
Yeah, that would be a 10 to 20% discount on $200.
So in other words, you lease the property, so actually you're gonna really bill no matter what, even if we don't buy in. Because I live in Lincoln Meadows.
Okay, yep, so,
Because this sounds like what
Excuse-
the energy, is it 3 minutes?
No, what it is you all going back and forth.
oh,
And what I
Because this sounds like the energy savings that these people was walking
and I
around.
understand.
So it's not a benefit.
I understand exactly what you're saying, but could you
Okay.
let the other, and also, once we get to the other questions, he's going to be here. You can talk to him out there, because I do understand what you're saying.
yeah, I may not have articulated myself
wanna go back and
properly,
forth.
and I'm happy to address that, definitely.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees. My name is Etna Johnson, and I'm
Yes.
here representing Lincoln Metals. And I'm going to ask everyone from Lincoln Metals, would you please stand, please? Thank you. And so my questions I will direct to our guest speaker, Michael. And some of the questions that I do have, the trustee, some of you have asked these questions as well. But just to reiterate what we're getting at tonight, can you identify the number of years your company has been in business? Because I don't recall you indicating that when you were introducing or giving your overview. Also, you indicated that your company is leasing this land from Vicky White, which is the owner of the land, for 25 years. You indicated that there are 7,000 panels that are being planned for the land that you're leasing. Questions for you are, what are the incentives and the benefits for the community and the village? Once again, this is a question that the trustee proposed. What other nearby communities have embraced or approved these solar panel projects? You indicated also that your company will visit the land twice a year and quote unquote kind of check over the land. Can you please elaborate what that, or checking over the land, what that includes? Also, if this is approved by the village, who will the community or the village contact if we have questions and complaints? Also, once again, who will receive the credits and how is that calculated? And what is the expected or anticipated start date of this project? And how long will it take it to implement the project that's being planned for? But most importantly, I have to say, and I'm speaking once again, thank you, I'm speaking again on behalf of Lincoln Metals. I can tell you now that a link fence would not be sufficient for the project that you're talking about. If you're talking about putting a link fence along that north side of Lincoln Metals, I would like to say, and I'm speaking on behalf of everyone, that that would not be sufficient for our development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think those were great questions. And to address your last point first, which is we're happy to discuss any type of fence that you want. As I indicated earlier, there will be evergreen screening in front of those trees. So there will be a whole row of trees that won't even allow you to see whatever fence is there. And so we, happy to go over that with you. A start date for the construction would probably be sometime in November, December to March, depending on how the process moves along of next year, so about a year away.
I'm sorry, 2019?
2019, yes.
I'm sorry.
There will be a dedicated local contact person that would be the administrator for the facility. When you check on the land twice a year, the solar really just sits there and does its thing. There isn't much to be done at all. They clean themselves with the rain. We put low-lying grass so it's not getting mowed or anything like that. You just kind of check on the site to see that it's all still there, but everything actually gets monitored remotely. You can see how much energy each panel is generating remotely, so you don't have to visit to see whether anything, if one panel isn't performing properly, we're able to see that on the computer output. The company that we represent, our name is Community Power Group, but we are NRG. NRG is one of the largest retail energy providers in the country. The benefits, as I said, to the individuals, to the community, is tax revenue without any incremental service burdens. There is the benefit of discounted power. The benefits to the neighbors is, again, discounted power there as well. And I do believe, and what we have seen in other places, is that having one of these completely benign, not doing anything solar facilities is much better than having any type of commercial development or additional housing that would go along that area between your house and the highway right there. So absolutely, because this will keep that as kind of open land into the future.
Okay, and how many years your company been in business?
NRG is one of the oldest. I mean, it's, I don't even know, 30, 40 years. It's a multi-billion-dollar publicly held company.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Debbie Robinson, and I have 2 questions. Now, my first question has been a thorn in my side for I don't know how long. My question is, are they going to groom that farmland? Because, when it backs up to the houses, the stuff is this tall. So I don't know if you're going to take the whole thing and then groom the farmland.
We will not be grooming the farmland. The contour and the leveling of the land will stay exactly the way it is. And instead of it being corn, it's just going to be a grassy field. Oh, I guess they're planting soybeans now, right? It's been corn in Alaska. I think this past year it was soybeans, but a couple of years before that it was corn.
What's the second question?
Sorry.
No, one more question.
Okay, I'm saying what's the second
So
question?
what's going to happen to all that tall stuff that's growing up behind the houses?
It'll stay there unless you want us to do something with it.
He's not going to disrupt any land. He's not going to grade, regrade. He's just going to stick panels in.
Okay, I forgot my second.
Okay. Is there other questions for? You want to step up to the mic, sir?
Okay, I don't need to step up. I got a loud mouth. But Mr. Mayor, I want to ask you how you doing, and the trustees on y'all. I'm Mr. Elmore from 21416 Peterson. I usually pay $121, $118 every month on water. And I was in the office over here, and Mr. Elmore, we not have a problem with your bill. in 37 years. And I get a bill this week, paid the 121, I get another bill for 455. I said, well, I don't know what's going on. I organized a thing out here in Sauk with the railroad behind my house, and they implemented money to Mayor Hanks. And they put new fences behind there, not a sound wall, but they said that the railroad was only supposed to be back there 19 times a day. Now they running 59 times a day. But your administration, your water department, all of them, they came by there, no leaks in the house. But when they run at 60 miles an hour a night, everybody on the street water meters running. And I just paid $450.
Wait a minute.
Everybody water meter, 16 people, water meters are running. When they run through the back of, behind Wagner School, 65, 85 miles an hour, that's 7 people. We got the same bill. They said, shut them off. I paid the bill, and they still shut the water off, but I come right up here and they cut it off. They said, we sorry, you paid it. So make that a note of that.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out how the train has anything to do with your meter.
This is how.
Okay.
This is how.
Okay.
I want to get off here before 3 minutes. We got 12 houses.
Okay.
Everybody's cylinders in the living room, bathrooms, everybody's cylinders collapsed. Mine has, and
what street is this, sir?
This is on 214-16 Peterson. The fire chief, what's his name, Myers, all of them been right there, and all the collapses, all the roofs collapsed down. Now you got the whole foundation shaking, the porches, the driveways are cracking. I'm gonna hurry up and get off here. And everything's cracking up. And now the water meter, the whole foundation shaking. That's why the meter's running. The water department came out and said, we don't see no leaks. But they gave me a bill of 121. They said, Mr. Elman, you never been late. And then they give me one for 455. I went on paid it. And then same money, 455 and here. And I got 6 other people, same thing. And look here. And now we found out that the trains, when they run down at 65 miles an hour, the meter runs spinning. We sat down there and wait, the meter spinning. Now the meter runs, now the meter been in there 45 years. Maybe they need to change it.
No, the new ones haven't been there.
I don't think,
The new ones haven't been in there for 45 years. That's the original.
It's been there 40-some years.
Oh, the house may have been there, yeah, but I'm just saying the meters. Okay.
So,
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. That whole strip of land on Peterson, as Peterson makes that turn and goes east.
that's right.
So you're talking about that whole row?
So the whole row.
Okay.
They gave me, I had a meeting in here with
But who told you that the meters were running while the train is moving? Who told you that? Somebody?
the railroad. I mean, not the railroad. Your Hanks, I mean, not Hanks, Myers and your...
Myers told you that?
Myers and your water department people, your chief, he come down and he said, this is happening at night when your water meter's going. We found no leaks in your building at all. No leaks.
So you're saying Ed Myers and then the chief?
Yeah, I had all of them come to my house.
You mean?
Myers,
Not the
the
chief,
fire
he
chief, Myers came down when all my cylinders collapsed.
Okay.
And then both of your water department people came down. Mr. Delba, I don't know. So I had 121 and I paid the 455 too. And then he said, I'm just gonna let you know, let the department know, you don't have a leak in the house. He was there. Everything shakes when.
Okay.
You know. Please,
Okay, and then
please,
I know you don't want to give me your phone number, but if you're going to be here.
Yes, Lord, I gave you my number. You know I gave you the number.
No, I'm just saying. I said I don't know if you want to give it to me in front of everyone, but I need to.
Yeah, I'm leaving my phone number here.
Okay, and that's what so this way I can get in touch with you.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Back.
You have 1 minute and 24.
Go.
Okay. First, I want to commend our Public Works Department, Fire Department, Police Department. They have been working with the past couple of weeks with the weather, the way it's been, they've been fabulous. And then I want to find out, I understand that, like today, we only had 1 policeman on duty.
Excuse me.
In the morning, yeah.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. You
I
said,
won't say that.
I'm trying to figure out how you got to that determination. There's only 1 police officer on duty this morning.
I was listening, but
You listen to the rules.
No? And then if we're cutting our policemen down, that is very unsafe for our residents. We need a lot more than a policeman and a sergeant on. Instead of cutting our police department and our first responders, we need to find another way to cut payroll, because that's really not good. And then I want to find out about this garbage. Is there a way that we can put something maybe on the water bill that tells people they need to put their garbage in a bag to put it in the trash can? Because after they get done with the garbage, pick up, I could show you pictures. I took pictures today of a couple of streets over on 221st. The garbage is unbelievable. You want to talk about looking like a slum. Have some pride, pick it up, put it in the garbage can the way it's supposed to be so it's not blowing all over our neighborhood.
Okay, let me, I don't know, I'm not gonna even ask you where you got your information from as far as cutting payroll, so I'm trying to figure out that one myself, because I've never even talked about cutting payroll. I was trying to say I need to get payroll and get the money for it, but I don't understand that one. So someone give you some false information, as someone's giving false information about one police officer and a sergeant being on duty today during the day. I don't know, but I'll find out. And as far as the garbage, I went out there today on 224th Street, really between 222nd and 224th on Clyde. And what happened is that area flooded, water came up, and people, you were right, had garbage cans and put the garbage in there, and they floated and it knocked it over and the garbage fell into the street. However, I had Public Works come out and take care of that, so it should be taken care of by now. And I also had them go around, so they may have not gotten to certain areas, but they will be by tomorrow to pick up the garbage that was left behind the flood, because it did flood today, and that's not anyone's control, it's just happened. And as far as telling someone to put their garbage in a bag and put it inside the dumpster, to put that on there, that's common sense. So, I mean, I can tell somebody to pay their water bill and they don't pay it, so what can I do? So, other than suspend the service. So, I will check into that. Clyde, I'm sure, when you go back, I don't know, but if you go back, you'll see Clyde has been cleaned up. And if there's other areas, I told them to patrol that too. Anyone else? Okay. Before we get into questions, comments from the board, I would like to ask the board to give me a consensus on paying the accounts payable ASAP, and then I will also, but I need to have that paid because it is something, it's kind of delicate. It has liabilities on there for the employees. So I just need a consensus. We'll take a vote next Tuesday, but I can't wait till next Tuesday because of the severity of the bill itself has to be paid by a certain time. So I'm just asking, I'll go around the table and ask each trustee if they give a consent to pay accounts payable, and we will vote on it formally next Tuesday. Sure.
We have enough general fund today to cover this?
Yes, we do. Okay, Madam, you should take it. Trustee Tate says yes. Trustee Grant? Trustee Zupan? Yes. Trustee Brewer?
Yes.
Trustee Todd?
Yes.
Okay, we have a consensus. You would take a formal vote on Tuesday, but I just where I need to so we can go and pay that accounts payable. All right? I'm getting ready to ask you.
That shows the balance on the insurance, there's a typo on there, and it says,
38,000.
38,000, so.
I saw that too.
Can we get that corrected?
Yes. Yes, we will. Okay, we're going to go for questions and comments from the Board of Trustees. Trustee Tate, Trustee Grant, Trustee Zupan, Trustee Brewer,
No.
Trustee Ty.
Nothing.
No pressure, look, that is the first. I just wanted to say and tell everyone that's in the audience, for this Rickover, they're having a Black History Month assembly this coming Thursday at Rickover. And if you have kids that are going to Rickover, I'm sure you're invited to come out and see a program. They put this program on every year. So I just talked to the board. Most of them will be there for this. Pardon me? Thursday? I said Thursday. I'm sorry. Okay, Thursday at 4:30. 4:30 at Rickover. So with that being said, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Moved by Trustee Zupan, second by Trustee Brewer. Any questions? Motion, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposes? Motion carried. Thank you very much.